Just before this episode begins, I would like to make everyone aware of the West Wellbeing Cup, which is being run again this season. This will be the third consecutive season it is ran. We have had junior and reserve competitions the last 2 years, and then of course we had our post-lockdown tournament previously. This season, I would love to start an intermediate competition. If any intermediate clubs are interested, I would like to get in touch. We can have 4, 8, 12, 16 teams, whatever we need. And then, of course, that would be the same for the junior and reserve, and there is spaces available. The whole point of this cup competition is to raise awareness for a suicide prevention charity, as well as raise some much needed funds. So please get in touch if you're interested. The more the merrier when it comes to a competition like this. Hello and welcome to the He Doesn't Want a podcast. We're going to start here tonight with Thomas McAllister, who is head coach of St Mary's Football Club. So, Ta, you have had what looks like a successful season. I don't think you'll have too much complaints with a 2A title and a Junior Shield again, back-to-back Junior Shield titles as well. I'd imagine you're ecstatic how the season went, but how do you assess it overall yourself?
Yeah, Gary, we're as a club, we're delighted to be honest. Obviously, back to back junior shield is really nice. And what happened last year, we won the junior shield last year, and then I think it was party mode, and we just didn't cope with the rest of our league games. And you know what the pressures like. Everyone wants to try and get the intermediate as quick as possible, but last year we definitely learned from it. We enjoyed the junior shield win last year, maybe a bit too much. We suffered for it, so this year it was nice just to keep the focus and get over the line in the league, which was a difficult league season, and the amount of games coming in at the end, because obviously we're catching up with the cup runs we had, was really pleasing. So we're over the moon, delighted to get promoted, obviously. So can't complain at all.
Yeah, because last season obviously it was yourselves and Castlewell and it boiled down to, and you beat Castlewell in the Junior Shield final. Obviously, then that gives them more motivation in leading into league games, and then the last two games of the season was when you lost it to Castlewell. And so I'm sure your
Yeah,
boys then came into the start of this season just with real fire in their belly. They weren't going to let that mistake happen again.
yeah. To be fair, like I have to be honest, the Castlewell, like, it wasn't just our approach that after the junior season. Like, to be fair, Castlewell were really motivated to try and get one over us, and both games. To be fair, like the lack of cross grade was just unplayable at times, and just think we were a bit naive. We just went in far too confident, after the junior shield final. And obviously, some of their players were missing the junior shield final, but take nothing away from our boys. Our boys did really well. But I just think we're far too naive during those league games. And it was a massive disappointment last year, to be honest, because we just felt, I thought we were good enough. Thought we were good enough. I suppose the point was we couldn't go up last year either,
Yeah.
um, with a pitch scenario. So, but it would have been nice to win the league, but we just didn't. And I think this year the boys were just much more focused in terms of when the junior scene came around again, we got that opportunity to play in that final. We knew, right, go try and get the win, but we were definitely focused on what was to come after in terms of the backlog of league games.
Yeah. I take it this season then, obviously the Junior Shield was nice, but once you got Ballyclare, everybody knew your intentions this year that winning the league was number one priority. And not only did you win it, but you went unbeaten and we're very close to winning every single game as well, just with the one draw out of 22 games.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think the thing with the league, like, this. The thing with the cup competitions, I just feel there was a few things we tried to do last year, like the Challenge Cup. So the Challenge Cup we looked at and went, like, is this something that we really need the distraction of? And it's not like a World Cup. You can't tell the boys to go out and lose games. But we
Yeah.
definitely made changes in that competition. But for whatever reason, we just kept getting through rounds. And I was worried, obviously, with the Junior Shield being a priority. Junior Shield is something we wanted again. But we're getting through rounds in that competition and the Cotton Quarry as well. We just felt, me and Jack Brasden were sitting going up on stage, like, this is going to have a real impact on our league campaign in terms of trying to get promotion where we're trying to go. Because, like, yourself, we end up playing Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Yeah.
And whilst we went the season unbeaten and obviously a draw to Kelvin, like, that doesn't really sell that. That doesn't really give the praise it's deserved the rest of the team. Like, even like yourselves, like, you just came up to Dixon Park one week and, like, we're really unlucky not to go away with something, just because, like, a lot of the teams in our division, I felt the division was really, really competitive again.
Yeah.
Um, so we were just concerned about when we come into that run of games at the end, like, are we going to be able to sustain this? And like, I was shocked we got out of it the way we did. I was shocked. I know the lads are capable, but like when you're playing twice a week, three times a week, like that's when it gets really difficult, really difficult. And the other thing is too, when you're playing with that sort of unbeaten sort of thing on your record, like teams are more motivated to go and try and
Yeah.
beat you as well. I just felt there was teams that really towards the end of the season you could say didn't have much to play for, but they came to play us, and it was like a different matter. It was like that's try and get one of these boys. So like we're delighted again. Like double seasons don't come along for clubs often, and we're delighted with it. So everybody at the club was delighted hard end it. And, obviously promotion was the main thing, so we're looking forward to having to go at intermediate next season.
Yeah, obviously I can only judge on the games we've had against us the last couple of years, but what I noticed this year with your squad, I don't know if it was a change that you made or just a change in the mentality of players, but there were certain moments when the games were you were happy enough to go, no, we won't control this part of the game, but we'll make sure we don't concede. And last couple of years against yourselves, you beat us every game as you played us, but last year you were a very complete team going forward. You were also very good defensively, but at the same time, this season it felt like there was games where, and a couple of times I watched this even against Clock, where he's had that ability to turn it off and turn it on at times. Where maybe that there are changes then when it comes to games and results. There's going to be games where you're going to be under pressure and just have to see it out. And then Clock, for example, the semi final watches are 2-0 down and just come out in the second half and just completely blitzed them. Did you feel that as a change when the squad or
Um, I think no, I think to be honest, I think if you look at the teams we're putting out every week, we're pretty consistent in terms of our personnel. The back four, we call them the back six, because there's always boys minute their chains, but it's consistent. Gary, I think so. This season, I think there's just 13 clean sheets in the league. Like
yeah,
that's league winning for them. That's the difference. Like I think back to the game against you boys, like it was 1-0 at our place. I can't remember how many 1-0s we had, but there was a few of them. I think that's the results you need if we're going to
yeah,
win leagues. In terms of the game, the clock where we went to behind, there was a wee spell at that stage this season. There was a few games like teams were sort of it wasn't. I don't think it was something. It was not. It wasn't an issue in the team. It was just a case of there was games where we were conceded early. And to be fair to our lads, it was maybe a time before where when we conceded it was like panic stations. But this season here, they've just been a wee bit more assured of themselves. I know we know we can score goals. We know we'll get chances. And it was just about when we did go behind the games about focusing on it. We'll get a chance and we'll get back in. And like the character shown in some games, like the junior season run was this season was even more pleasing because like we've done like a tour of Ballymena as
yeah,
well, and like Harryville, Southside, Clock, obviously, like difficult games, and Southside away, Harryville away, really difficult games. So like we had to show character. There's times you get up there and the pitches aren't great, and you're not going to get to play the football you want to play. It's not like the semi-finals or finals on the pitches that we play on there. You have to dig in. So the lads defensively just been brilliant again. I think 13 goals conceded in the league campaign. Like, I can't complain about that. And
yeah,
94 scored. So um, not so much a change, just repetition. Like to be fair to Jack Wesson, the coach, our first team coach, like Jack has him well drilled. He has him well drilled in shape, and you can see that when you play against him.
yeah,
The boys complain a lot throughout the season with the session where it's maybe slow and start to stop because he's working on shape, but they accept it. It's just part of it. That's just they have to do, and the results are there. So is it is it going to be the same next season? You don't know. I don't know what they expect of one seed. To be honest, obviously the higher you go, the more difficult it will get. But we had a few scalps in the Clarence this year, and we sort of give good account of ourselves any time we play at any one of the higher level. So we're looking forward to it.
yeah. Once he did say this last year as well, the couple of people it used to be a league where you just walked through to 1-2A, and now it seems to be a lot more competitive because teams are still staying and finding it hard to get out of it. So the whole league in general has become tougher, and you have like Supportive Ogie and Shamrock who just come out of 2A, and then you have a couple of other good sides who are already around 1C as well. So it'll be a new challenge
Mm,
for you as well, starting early, but I'm sure something
yeah.
you're definitely looking forward to. Like,
No, 100%, 100%. Starting early, the scary thing is like, we're talking here about getting a rest. We're aiming here to be back training, middle of this month. So that's different for us. You usually get a longer break, but considering we were playing well into May, like I think 17th of May or something, maybe the last game or whatever. So that's difficult. That's going to be a change, but we're not planning on having a big pre-season. Like if I said to Jack last week, like if we can agree on like maybe 4, 5 of the max pre-season games, that's all we want. When you consider how many competitions you're going to play in.
yeah,
So no, we're definitely looking forward to it. Don't really know what to expect other than the teams we know. Like we faced Portugal a couple of times last year, and we had the better of them. But good side, and the games were tight. Um, and you just don't know what sort of state the teams are going to come that are coming down from the league above. So we don't know what to expect. All I can do is make sure our lads are ready. So we'll
yeah,
go again. And I think like, I'm sure you know, again, you know yourself, like, we're a fit side as well. We can get about, we have to be fit to get about Dixon Park, and um, the lads will come back in good shape. They'll look after themselves. There's no, it's not going to be a case of having to get them back in pre-season and really working them really hard. So um, I'm pretty confident we'll compete. We'll compete. So
yeah. I think as well, it's a testament to yourselves. Obviously, you're well coached, you said about Jack's coaching and stuff, but it's a testament to the players themselves as well, like you said, to keep themselves fit as well, because a lot of teams, even intermediate level, will get 2 hours a week with players, and you're having to spend those 2 hours just to get them fit, never mind working on anything technical or tactical. So
yeah,
being able to trust them to come back in pre-season, hopefully in relatively good shape, means that you can then prepare for the season on the football side of it
yeah,
rather than having to just run them.
yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. The lads, like to be fair, the lads from all aspects, Gary, our group, we're really lucky. We just finished registration there last week for everybody again, and we've got everyone signed again. Obviously chasing one or two more. Um, there's maybe one lad that's looking to maybe go on and better himself at a bigger club, but we're going to have discussions with him this week. But see, in terms of the whole group, like it's not even just that attitude towards training. They're a tight group in terms of like their attitude towards the club, and trying to
Yeah,
push the club forward. Um, like even this week alone, we've had the captain was at the AGM, big AGM last night. He was at a school event that the club, the partnership thing with one of the schools up here in Glengormley. Him and another player were at that yesterday during the day, and we've got the sort of fun day, the club fun day coming at the end of the month, and we'll get a good turnout from the senior team at that. They're all bought in. They're bought into trying to push the club forward. They're all working hard, not only just on the training pitch, but like in terms of everything to do with the club, in terms of fundraising and helping us get to where we need to get. So we're incredibly lucky that way. It's not just it's not the work of coaches, managers. It's everybody, like all the boys are putting their effort in. So we are lucky, and long may it continue.
yeah. In terms of the club aspect, the fact that you have a great youth setup. The, what's happening recently with the club with the success as a senior team is really just all that what you have done as a club in terms of youth just working its way through, and it's all come to fruition where the club is just constantly progressing year on year. Where like what was it 5 6 years ago you're BDFL, and then all of a sudden now you're in intermediate football in the amateur league. It has been a great run from the club, and it's just basically all the guys in the background who've worked so hard over the years. But you're not giving yourself and Jack credit either. You've been the guys who have led the charge for the senior team as well.
No, listen, like there's a list of people that you could. There's the amount of people that have had their input in what we've done over the last sort of, even if you take just recent history of the last since me and Jack took over, the list of people that help us out, like you'll see it. Like
Yeah,
when you come up to our place or when we played on the coaching staff, the first team of maybe 5 or 6 lads, are like good lads. Like there's Peter Dunlap and Jai Dornan and Big Mickey Pettigrew. real good lads. And we're lucky that way. The amount of working in behind it. Like me and Jack do our jobs. There's no like Jack's a super coach, no question, and I try my best to manage the lads and keep them motivated. But like the amount of people that have been involved, like even from when we came into the amateur league, like people who are no longer even with the club, we done great jobs. Everybody played
Yeah,
a part. The thing is, Gary, it's strange. Like, see this season in terms of the success this season, I just felt it's crazy the way things change. And our first junior season, when it was a really big deal and everybody was the support that night was unbelievable. The support this season, or this season past, the junior season final was really good as well, but it wasn't quite as good as it was before.
yeah,
And it's almost like the expectations change from everybody. Everybody thinks that that's normal now. That's the way you should go. Like, and how difficult it is. Like, it's like managing football clubs and keeping players together and keeping players motivated. It's difficult. So it's just while we're on this run, we'll keep it going. We'll try and keep everyone engaged. And then to be fair, things like this podcast that you do, like one of our big issues as a club, like I told you beforehand, is like the finances of the club.
mhm,
We keep progressing in terms of what we're doing on the pitch at the minute, and we're heading for intermediate football. But that's taking that there's a responsibility in for the club financially to try and come along with that, and it's really really difficult. Like the amount of sponsors we have and the amount of people that help is great. But then on the other hand, like there's a lot of businesses in Glengormley that don't lend a hand, that aren't sponsoring the club, and like it's really about encouraging them. And the better the profile of the club, you think you have a chance of doing that because financially, as I said earlier, like, we finished the season on a negative. As a senior setup, just barely getting by. And then and
yeah,
like that's a responsibility people like Brian Byrne take on, and Frankie Wilson, and they're working really hard behind the scenes trying to make sure that the money's there to keep this thing going. But Gary, it's hard. Like, I'm sure you know that too. It's really
yeah,
difficult. And like, what do? You have to keep progressing, and it generally costs more money. But the big issue for us is the pitch costs.
yeah,
Um, and that's the club as a whole. Like the build for the club's training facilities in the last sort of 3 or 4 years have been pretty consistent, and it's eye water. Like they're north of 80,000, but that's the whole club. That's like junior teams and the women's teams, the whole lot. And like we've every most people are good, but we've got the odd parent that would grumble about their kids' dues at 27 quid a month or whatever it is, and you're like,
yeah,
really? Like, do you understand the amount of money it costs to keep a club like this going? So like that's our big issue. And as I say, like things like this, the podcast, and anytime we get a chance to talk about St Mary's, it's about like pushing that forward because like this all costs money, and the amount of work that the people are doing in the club in our community in Glengormley, it's insane.
yeah,
There's not many other registered charities that look after and cater for the amount of kids that our club do in the area. So, and again, we're always trying to push for a new pitch. We're talking to councillors and politicians all the time, but it just seems like they're always in the long finger, and you know the sport just isn't there. So we're working away behind the scenes. Dixon Park's brilliant at the minute. Ballyclare have been a good partner this season, and we feel that we've done our bit in terms of we respect the facilities and we look after it, and it's great for us. But it's it's bleeding the bank account. That's the point.
yeah.
So, you
That's the
know,
thing. It's success. Obviously, it comes at a cost as well because you could be playing at a council pitch and not wanting to progress as a club and save a few quid, or at the same time you could have worse training facilities or less training sessions, or like if you want to be successful, it does cost money. But I do feel, and I said this to you earlier, where clubs are getting it from all angles at the moment. It's just constant, and there's fines
yeah,
here, fines there, costs of training's constantly rising, costs of pitches, no matter where it is constantly rising. Everything's becoming more expensive. Even like the last couple of years, I've even noticed trying to buy a new kit, it's almost trebled in price. And
yeah,
and then you're trying to get sponsors, but the same sponsor who sponsored you 3 years ago, you're going to them here.
yeah,
It's double at least now, and it's hard that way. But you're just hoping now that like, you're now bringing Irish Cup football to Glengormley. Next season, if
yeah,
you get a home tie, Glengormley has a team competing in the Irish Cup. You're hoping then that enables local businesses to really just help out the club as much as they can. Like you said, the amount of people from Glengormley who are affected by what St Mary's do, young players, and in general, those businesses should be grateful, especially ones which are retail ones where you're
Yeah,
keeping kids off the street and keeping them safe, and
yeah.
you're creating better individuals for the area and stuff. It's all that comes
Mhm.
into it. You'd think that more businesses would, but it is a struggle. It's hard.
We just feel we've got the stage now where our main sponsors are like our main sponsors are fantastic. Like we've got we've got Hyundai there, Dailies, and we've got Smash Brothers, who's the owner of Smash Brothers is a former St Mary's player, just a great lad. Like every season we go cap in hand and we ask for will he buy us a new kit. And like, the problem was it's not just one kit. We've got three senior men's teams with the first
Yeah,
team, reserve team, and then obviously a development squad. So you're asking all the main sponsors, the same sponsors every year for money, and you just feel like, sometimes you feel like, are these guys really, is it fair on these boys to come to do this? But like they always do it. To be fair, like, there's never a question. They always help us out and they see the progression. But it's just like that's where it's at. Like three senior teams isn't cheap.
yeah,
It's just bleeds the money. Like Brand. I don't understand how Brand does it half the time. To be fair, Brand's Brand's Mr. St Mary's, and he's the amount of things that he has to sort of juggle to try and keep things going is just unbelievable. But hopefully this year we've got a bit more help in the committee, and people are buying in to try and take a bit of pressure off him. And it's just Gary, it's just an ongoing struggle, but that's
yeah.
part of it. That's what goes on behind senior football clubs. And as I say, if we can just keep raising the profile of the club and people take an interest and want to support us, then great. So
Yeah. I think as
we'll see
well,
where it
like
takes us.
it's great to see, obviously, like any club doing well, but you can see how much it means. The likes of when I went up to Dixon Park or Frank and Brian, cup of coffee, chatting away, and you can see how much they put into the club and how much it means to them. And it's clubs like yourselves, real family clubs and real good people you want to see do well. So I, I'm hope you do really well next season. I'm really pleased with what you've done this season as well. And it just long may it continue. And St Mary's is on the up.
Thank you, thank you. Appreciate it, and again, look, thanks very much for doing this sort of thing because I think it not only for our club, it helps highlight the goings on for clubs all around the country. And to be fair, you know, people like yourself doing this help us get the message out in terms of what we're trying to do. It's just like it raises the profile of the league and how everyone's doing, and I hope you boys do well next season as well. So I know you haven't got much of a rest, but hopefully you can have a good campaign, mate.
Yeah, mate. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time once again.
No worries, Gary. Thank you. Cheers.
Mate, I'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much.
You're a star, mate. Thank you. No
Yes,
bother.
thank you.
Have you all your
I've been,
pre-seasons sorted?
mate, I haven't even looked at it. I'm trying to run a tournament again this year. Run it every year for West Wellbeing Suicide Prevention Charity. It was something I ran straight after lockdown. That was
Mm-hmm.
only meant to be 8 teams and turned into be 80. Now that was different
Right. Okay.
because everybody wanted competitive football, but then the charity asked me every year to run it. But it's getting harder and harder to get teams to want to enter and play some sort of competitive games. And some
Yeah.
people just want to do their own thing and organise their own pre-season. So
How
I
many how
didn't.
many games potentially in it? For
So
like say if we did it, how many games we will have to play?
well, I don't have an intermediate section, but I'm trying to convince some teams to make an intermediate section. So I spoke to Brew McCall from Magalada, and he says, Gary, if you get us an opponent, I says to him, because he was all for it last year, he was only one or the only ones who really wanted to help me with it. And he
Mm.
said, if you can get me an opponent, we'll even play a one-off game, and we'll do it for a
Well,
trophy. So he's no
well, if you
games
want,
organised. If you want a game against the
yeah,
Mac,
if
I'll
you
get you
want,
a game.
if I can help you out, we would do that. The only dates that I've got taken up at the minute are the 19th and the 26th of July, I think.
Yeah.
Um, so as long as it doesn't clash with them.
Yeah. If I give you
So,
Brew's number, do you want to try and arrange something with him? You can, and then
yes,
I'll bring a
yes, and then
trophy
we'll
up on
work
the
it.
day and stuff. And
Yeah, we'll work it through the
yeah,
charity, whatever entrance fee it is. We'll do that. So for now,
yeah. No, that'll be brilliant, mate. Thank you very much. Cheers. Because it's
no,
not even the
no
entrance
worries,
fee.
mate.
See if I can get it like go up and with buckets and stuff and get a few quid, or even just went round on a wee
Yeah,
£2 scratch card on the day or something, that would make enough
right.
money anyway. But it's just to try and get the intermediate competition up and running, and then maybe
Yeah.
get more teams involved next year. Um,
Well, to be fair, like
last,
that one-off game would suit me fine, guy. To be honest, so
yeah,
like I'll do my best to make that work. If Brew has a date that works for us and vice versa, so we'll try and get that sorted. No bother.
brilliant, mate. That's brilliant.
So
I'll
it
let
is.
Bruno in. Thank you very much.
No worries, mate. Dead on. Look, thanks
Cheers, mate. I'll
again.
speak to
All
you
right.
later. Thank you.
All the
Speak
best.
later. Bye
Cheers,
bye.
mate. Thanks. Bye bye.
I'm here with Liam O'Connor, who is the Aquinas manager. Liam, very successful season, 1B champions. Congratulations.
Thanks, Gary. Cheers.
It,
Appreciate it.
the season itself, it obviously is a finished ahead of Finnicky and Green Island, who run you close. And just looking back at previous years, Aquinas as a club grew really quickly through the amateur league and made their way up into 1B. And they kind of got stuck in 1B for a couple of years. There was a couple of years where you're competitive enough to challenge, but last season seemed to be a drop off where you finished what mid table was it? And then this
Yeah.
season they've now went from there to winning the league. So obviously a lot of changes were made, and obviously the players' mentality shifts. And what sort of things did you do this season based on your experiences last year to kind of change things and get us over the line?
Well, yeah, it was. I think I came in as first team manager. I mean, I think it's important to state that I inherited a really good squad. John McCormick, who was the previous first team manager, and John did a great job.
Yeah.
Sort of bringing a professional standard to the club. John played a big part in securing Rathmore for the club, which meant we had a pitch then that finally that it met intermediate standards. So it meant the club could get up into 1C. And I think John led the club the 1C title and promotion to 1B. And it was a challenge. 1B is a tough league. And I played in it before. I actually played most of my days for Rosario. So I think they call me Judas over in the Armour Road now. But I remember playing in 1B, and I know it was a tough league. It's not an easy league to get out of. But actually, in COVID year, John had them sitting top of the league just as COVID hit in that March and everything stopped. So he was very unlucky. But I think whenever football started back, it was tough for him. And I think all of us, we all have a shelf life. I think it will happen to me one day. It's happened to better managers than me. And John, I think he had sort of ran his race. He had given everything that he could give. He was giving everything to the club, and then the club asked me to come in, and I inherited pretty much the same squad that John had when I took the first team in 2023-24 season. My priority at the time, I was coaching the youth teams as well at the club. I was previously the second team manager, but my role in the club was bringing the young lads through. So I already knew there was quite a few young lads that were going to come through and push through. So last year, you're right to say that last season was tough for us because we were bleeding a lot of those young lads, and they're getting hit in a 1B game by someone playing by a big centre half playing for Willowbank or for Hollywood, and but you know what, they're learning from it. And so I knew last year was going to be, it was going to be a tough season, my first season as manager. But we needed changes at the end of last season, and at the end of season 2 last year, I called a lot of things out. One thing I wanted to shake was this sort of notion that Aquinas is a soft team. There's quite a few teams that you come up against who would, and you could hear them saying, hit them hard, hit them early, they'll not want to know, and I wanted to shake that, and that was one of my most important sort of top priorities. But also I was really excited about the younger lads coming through because they had last season the experience of it, and they came into this season as men. And I laid down the gauntlet. I laid a challenge to the lads at the start of the season, which was winning a league and winning promotion in intermediate football, because I've done it myself as a player. It's all about sacrifice. And if you want to be sitting at the top of that league, or at least second in that league and getting promotion, you need to make sacrifices through the season. And there had been a culture that crept into the club where boys wouldn't think twice about heading away on a stag weekend or heading away for Cheltenham weekend. And, you know, I know John suffered that whenever he was manager. And I laid down the gauntlet and I said, guys, if you want to come along this journey with me and with the coaches, you need to make those sacrifices. And that's what we got this season. Gary, that was one of the big changes. So the attitude was right from the start. I think another thing that sort of fed into our favour was we, at the time, I saw this as a disadvantage, but we didn't have the use of Rathmore at the start of the season because the pitch was being relayed. So we couldn't take a home fixture for 2 months. And it meant that our first 6-7 games in the league were away from home. And we had picked up maximum points. So we had a 18th Fruit Navy, Portaferry, Newcastle at the start of the league. And then, so all of a sudden you've got all these points on the board at the start of the season and you haven't played a home game yet. Then we play, I think it was Colin Valley, and we a load of injuries and boys away. And it was just that Colin Valley came. I had to play a lot of kids from the reserves and stuff, and they beat us, I think, 3-1 at home. And then you're sort of looking at it, you're saying, this is what I mean, lads. This is what I'm talking about sacrifice. And then I think our next game was Green Island at home, away, sorry. And we went up there, we were 2-0 up at half time. We had most of the players back, and we were 2-0 up at half time, and then threw it away. Green Island came back and scored in the last minute, 3-2. And this is I think it was in October. And, I remember sitting in silence in the changing room after the match thinking, these guys, do they really want this? Like, do they really want to win this league? And I think we went 18 games after Green Island in October unbeaten with 16 wins and 2 draws to win the league. So we never looked back from it. You're asking me what was different. We put a huge emphasis on working defence in training, and we tried to make ourselves hard to score against. And I think we had 11 clean sheets. So people say clean sheets win leagues, and it really did. Our goal difference was brilliant, but some of the senior players really stepped up, Gary. I mean, like Niall Atkinson, who our captain is a top quality player. Every summer he's got clubs ringing him, asking him to sign, but he just loves it. He loves Aquinas. He loves playing for us. He loves having the armband. And then the Ramseys, how do you get more out of the Ramseys? And you sort of you throw the arms around them and you get 100% out of them. And then the likes of Mark Boylan, Jack McRae and Nets, who had 11 clean sheets, Mark E. Cummins. And then you have a player like Don Mooney up front who's scoring goals out of nothing, So we had players really stepped up. Me as a coach and my coaching staff, we gave everything, and not only in training but on Saturdays, and we're very, very vigorous in our preparation. And ultimately, you're sitting there with a league title and a promotion, and you're in the promised land of 1A. For a club that's only been in existence for 15 years, senior club at Aquinas was only formed in 2010. Within 15 years, we're playing 1A football. So it was a fantastic achievement. A lot of hard work went on before me, and a lot of hard work went into the last couple of seasons. So yeah, delighted to get over the line eventually.
Yeah, to see the game against Green Island, when you lose that game 3-2 and you're saying you're a young squad, obviously the experience of last season, you're probably thinking these young players now have lost this game. This is a real test to see if they've actually matured enough, and it just goes to show the mental strength that the players just have, and especially with having a lot of young players there. I know senior players bring them along, but the Wendy went that run of 18 games unbeaten. You probably couldn't have seen that at the time sitting in that change room at Green Island, because you don't know what way your players are going to react. But it just goes to show that the players do have the mental fortitude to go and do that.
So I talked, we had our end of season do a couple of weeks ago, Gary, and I talked about this before I was getting out the awards and stuff. I remember I played for Rosario. We played Dramara Village away, and it was getting towards the end of the season. We were in the Premier, and we were fighting relegation, and we were 2-0 up at half time, and we lost it 3-2 away to Dramara. It was a big crowd, and their winning goal was my fault as a player. I made a mistake, and I remember sitting in the changing room, and Colin Telford was the manager, who's one of the best managers I ever played for. And he never spoke. He never spoke one word, and as a player, you're sitting there and you're feeling that silence, and you don't want to feel that again. And I remember as a player thinking, I'm going to go and give everything, and we all did the same. And I think we stayed up that season. We won a few games and we stayed up. I never spoke a word in the change room at Green Island when we lost. You know, we just lost in the last minute. We're off the pitch. It's raw. In the changing room, Green Island boys are banging the walls and banging the doors, rightly so. And we walk in the changing room, and the players are sitting there, and they're all looking at me, and I'm just getting myself ready, and everyone's sort of waiting to see what the gaffer's going to say. And I just got my jacket on, walked out, grabbed my keys, jumped in the car, and drove home. And Niall Atkinson rang me, and he says, "Liam, what are you doing? You have to speak to the players." I says, "No, I'm not speaking to the players. Let them feel it. Let them feel this pain." And then we just turned up for training on Tuesday, and I could see the difference. I could see it in their eyes. You know, it was almost like, how dare he not address us, you know, and I want to show him, kind of thing. And it was brilliant, because they were so determined after that, and it clearly showed, because they never lost a game right through until we beat Finnegy in that crucial game that won us the league, you know. And I don't know, what, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, like, you don't lose a game, and it's insane in intermediate football. But a lot of those games, Gary, weren't easy, you know. We went away to Colin Valley, who are a bogey team for us, and you know, Paul always gets them right up against Aquinas. He gets them right up for it, and you know, I said to the boys, you know, this is where you show your mental strength, you know. And you know, I think Niall Atkinson, 2 minutes into the game, flew in with a late tackle and got himself booked, but that set the tone for the lads. The lads like, we're going to get wired in here up in Poglass, away to Colin Valley, and it was we won 3-2, and that was it. You could see the mentality switch after that. We weren't going to lose a game. We went away to St. Matt's in the new year, and we won 1-0. Simon Ramsey scored a header, and we just dug in and saw it out, you know. So when you've got the momentum behind you and the belief behind you, Gary, you know, sometimes as a manager, you just have to sit back and watch the players, leave it to the boys on the pitch. And so it was a collective effort. And but that Green Island game was the turning point. You're right to call that out, because that pain that you feel motivates you. You know,
it's sometimes the players can just see the disappointment, and I think it sometimes means more rather than anger. And then the other thing of it is, then once you go back to training on the Tuesday night, you go back to winning ways again. You look back and you go, those first bunch of games at the start of the season, all those away games, and we've got trips like Portaferry out of the way, Newcastle out of the way,
big time.
All these places you don't have to travel to in midweek come April, and then you have other tough away games, the likes of St. Matt's and Colin Valley. Once you come through them, you can really start to just gather belief, and then it just gathers momentum as well with it. And then to win leagues and to get promoted, it's not about winning your games at Rathmore. Obviously, you want to be winning those games as much as you can, but if you beat somebody 3 or 4-0 at Rathmore, it's more important to go to these places and nick a goal and win 1-0 or win 3-2. That's where you really see the trophies coming in there at the end of the season.
Big time. No, listen, as I say, there's a number. I could call out any of the games that, you know, there's some comfortable games for us, but you know, in intermediate football, mostly they're going to be tough, tight games. I remember we had a real ding dong with 18th Newton Abbey at Rathmore, and it was 2-each at one point, and we kind of ran away with it, got 2 late goals, and won that game 4-2. And it almost, you know, 18th Newton Abbey were up there. They were like in the mix. It almost put their lights out a bit, you know, and they were always going to be a team that were going to take points off other teams, you know. I think they're going to be a massive threat in 1B next season. Green Island, who we've spoken about, you know, we still had to play Green Island once at home, and we still hadn't played Finnegy.
Yeah.
So it was starting to look like a three horse race. But you're waiting for those fixtures to come out, and then you're not seeing Finicky, you're not seeing Green Island, and you're like, well, what's going on here? This is going to go. It's going to be one of these ones where we're going to end up playing these guys late on in the season, which was the case. And I hadn't actually had a chance to watch Finicky, but Green Island were without a doubt. When I look back of all the cup games we played and all the league games we played this season, Green Island were the best footballing team we come up against last season by a mile. They play some great football. My heart goes out to Lee and the players, because they were without a doubt, they're well drilled, and they're a really good team, and they've got some really good young players, and they play some really nice football. They took 4 points off us last season. When we played them at Rathmore, it was 2 each. I think Matt Keenan gets sent off, and with half an hour still to play, it was 2-1 to us. They got a goal, and then it's backs to the wall. Can we hang on for this point? They needed to win it. A point was good for us, and we hung on. Matt Keenan, Marky Cummins, Mark Boylan, their defending was unbelievable. Some of the saves Jack McCrae was pulling off. It was just a brilliant point, and then we're going straight in from that game into 2 games back to back against Finicky. And like Chrissy, I think passed Chrissy a few times because they train at Rathmore.
Yeah, it's a local derby. Yeah, it's very close.
So kind of like, and I've known Chrissy for a long time. So, we're passing each other and we're sort of looking at each other, rolling our eyes, going, "This season's still going." We still haven't played each other, and we knew we had this double header against them, and it was the fixtures were kind to us because the first game was at Rathmore, and I think Don Mooney scores early on in the game, and then Finicky pretty much dominated possession. I think we got a bit edgy, and they were, there was dangerous crosses coming in, there were shots coming on. I think their shooting was off that day. They had a few good chances, but our boys defended for their lives. I think Marty Ramsey, it was his best game of the season up front. He just led the line really well. And then you had the likes of Marky Cummins and Matt Keenan and Mark Boylan at the back, Jack McCrae. These boys are Aquinas lads through and through. They've only ever really played for Aquinas, and you could see what it meant to them. And we saw the game out 1-0. Then you're setting up a league deciding game at Knockbreda Park against Finicky midweek, and we go there, and ironically we win, not comfortably, but we win 2-0. We defend really well. We didn't really try to play a lot of football. We just managed the game. Yeah. Whereas Finicky did try to play some football. The pitch was awkward, but it was brilliant just to kind of see it through finally and win the league. And not only you winning the league, but you're also we gain promotion on the same night. You almost forgot that part,
Yeah.
But no, it was great. It was great for the club. It was personally a great achievement for me and for my coaching team. But brilliant for the club. Great buzz about the club. Great seeing a lot of the young lads and the young girls from all the youth teams coming up and cheering us on and stuff. And yeah, so challenge is now how to go far in 1A next season. That's the big challenge now.
See, the thing is as well, for you're saying about those boys who are Aquinas through and through, like some of those boys would have been there from day one of the senior team and played BDFL, 2C, 2B, 3A, 1C, right up, and it just goes to show the strength of the club and its youth teams as well, that those players have been able to move into senior football and progress as almost as a group. Very few clubs get the opportunity to do that. Usually the ones who do are very successful. So it's get that group together and that core group of who actually just care about blue and black. It's a huge thing to have, isn't it? Really, like.
Oh, mate, like I played for Aquinas when I was a kid. I played for Plunkett, then Aquinas, and then I went to Cliftonville, and then I went away actually to America, and I played over there. And then I came back, I played for Rosario. But Aquinas is almost similar to Plunkett and Rosario in a way. And I know Macalata and a lot of other boys clubs are doing really great things with their youth academies and stuff. But Aquinas is a club that its lifeblood is its youth academy, and we can't offer money for the players. We can't offer, our players have to pay to play. We don't have any means of revenue stream. Everything's fundraising, everything's sponsorship, and we have to then focus on those young lads coming through, and to see the current group of players that went and won 1B last season and promotion to 1A, to see the fact that the majority of them were boys that were here at the start of that journey. It means more to them, but it's great for me to sort of reflect on. But it shows that model works of bringing those young lads through, and eventually one day they'll bear fruit. But we've got I think our seconds finished. I think they finished sort of top half, fifth or sixth, I think, in 3A this year. And if you actually went on comment and looked at all the games, it's NA. It's all young lads. So we've got a really young second team squad, and a lot of those lads are starting to show really good signs that they're almost ready for first team football. I mean, last season we brought a guy through, which was a guy called Charlie Mickelberg, who I think is 19 years of age. John McCormick gave him his debut when he was 16, and he was raw. He was certainly raw for the last few seasons, and in this season he's a man now. He's 6'1", 6'2". He's getting stuck in. He's a wee bit of a swagger about him. He's confident, and he's now one of the more regular first team players. So you had that mix of those young lads coming through in the last few years and the more experienced players. And then we've got people like Niall Atkinson, who's played Irish League football and could probably still play championship or could certainly play in the Premier. And you've got his quality on the pitch and his leadership, and boys feed off that. So it was a culmination of a lot of experience, youth, and a bit of class. It got us over the line. But the work sort of finishes. You win the league and you win promotion, and then straight away you're starting to think about next season and what players can come through. Can we get any players into the door? And starting to plan for pre-season and friendlies and stuff. It never ends. It never ends.
It's a different thing. Obviously, when you get promotion, and everything changes. Like now, your view towards next season will change. I'm sure coming into 1A, the main thing will be to compete, make sure you stay in 1A, finish as high as you can. But do you think your Clarence Cup run this year as well, and how you rank Cumber so close, who you're the top team in the Premier Division? Do you think that will give you more confidence? Obviously, you're successful 1B, but the one you can compete against these teams in the higher level.
Yeah, I mean, I always sort of, say always, I suppose for this season and last season, and certainly next season, pre-season, I always try to get a number of games against Premier teams. And that's maybe not only to sort of put a marker down to see where are we at again, in comparison to these clubs, but also to sort of give us a bit of a runaround in pre-season, so we're at that level just whenever the season starts. So I think we're playing. I was on with Chew and Brew and Morgo, and we're playing all those clubs in pre-season, playing Crew United, Donegal Celtic stuff. So we're trying to test ourselves against the best clubs that we can. But obviously, in cup competitions, you're going to come up against some of these teams. And in the Clarence Cup run last season, we come up against 3 1A teams throughout the run. I mean, we played Plunkett away. We won that in extra time, so we showed a bit of character in that. I know Plunkett are going through a bit of a transition at the minute, but they still, they're always going to be hard to beat. We played the Murray Rec away. Again, 4-1. We beat them at Ashley Park, but it was 1 each with 10 minutes to go. And then we played the Murray Young Men in the quarter-final at Rathmore, and we're 3-1 down with 15 minutes to go. And we'll come back and win 4-3. It's just the cup, the magic of the cup, they say, isn't it? But it's hard to sort of draw a comparison with one-off cup matches and look at that and say, well, we competed against 1A teams last year and we won. That means we're going to be grand in 1A next season. It doesn't work like that. I played most of my days for Rosario in 1A. I know it's a really, really tough league. And Gary, when you look at some of the teams in that league, I mean, Willowbank, we don't know what Rosemount and Crumlin are going to be like. Crumlin United, we know Paddy's made a few signings, but there's good teams in there. Foundry, Shankly United, Lauren Tech, First Bangor, and obviously Finicky are up there. It's going to be a really, really tough league next season, and that's why it's good to know that I've retained, I think, most of the players from last season. I think some of those younger players are ready to sort of become more established, and I've brought in one or two players who have a bit of experience, so I think that'll add to it. But it's going to be tough. Obviously, the game against Cumberrec in the Clarence last year, the semi-final. Don't think Aquinas had ever been in a senior level, ever been anywhere near a semi-final, not even maybe a quarter-final. I'm not sure, but the lads were telling me it's the first time that they were in a semi-final of a major senior cup competition, if you like, intermediate. And I had done my homework on Cumber. I knew what they were going to be like. I knew they were going to be well drilled, very physical. I know they're quite a direct team, but it's not just hoofing the ball. They're doing it with a purpose. The movement off the ball is exceptional, and then whenever they get the breaking ball and they get the ball down, they're a good footballing team with a lot of pace. But I felt we could hurt them, and at 0-0, edging towards half time, it's a tight match. Boys are doing their job just exactly as I've asked them to, and then Don Mooney gets through 1-on-1, and you're thinking if he slots that home, it's going to be you're getting into half time 1-0 up, and he puts the ball over the bar, and I don't hold that against him. Dom's been brilliant for us. On another day, slots it, and then they go up the other end and score what I would regard as being quite a lucky goal. It bounced off the guy's knee and into the net. Then you're getting 1-0 down, and with nothing to lose, guys. So we went at them and we threw everything at them. Their keeper made a couple of really good saves, and then later on in the game, you take a chance, you push a few boys forward, and then they hit you on the break and score a tap in to sort of seal the deal, 2-0. And you're thinking what might have been, but then you're looking at it and taking so many positives. Cumberrec, look what they've done. Look at the run they went on. Barring their final defeat, Clarence Cup final defeat, the Star. I think they've gone unbeaten in the league for a number of games there to ultimately win them the league. And Picky's done a great job there. He's got a really good squad to work with, and fair play to him. But we took a lot of heart from that game. And yeah, you're right. You take a lot of belief from that getting the next season.
Well, next season obviously starts. Players don't realise this as soon as last season's over, and because everything's prepared. So I take it they're all systems go. You're probably not far away from starting pre-season. I take it.
Yeah, start next week. Tuesday night. A couple of sessions booked in Barnett's Park. I don't think the players are going to be too happy when they hear that and they watch this back. But fitness. Listen, my mantra is always, the fittest team is always going to be thereabouts at the end of the season. So, I saw something yesterday. I know Plunkett are back in training already, and fair play to them. And anyone that's back at this stage are taking this seriously. And we're coming up against some really good clubs and good teams next season. So we need to be really fit. So the emphasis for the first 2 weeks is going to be on fitness, and then we're going to focus a lot on on sort of shape, tactics, set pieces. There's a couple of things you want to introduce, some changes we're going to introduce, but as you say, Gary, the work never stops. You're trying to bring players in, you're trying to make sure you've got the same squad already and committed again. And then you're speaking to the different clubs and booking referees and booking pitches, and So it feels like it's starting up again for the players when they come back next week. It sort of hasn't really ended for the likes of us guys.
Never does, mate. It doesn't.
I know.
Liam, thanks very much for giving up your time. Really appreciate it. And obviously, Aquinas came through 2A when I was manager for the 2A, and we're always very well organised side, really good players, and they're all good lads as well. So I wish you the best of luck on 1A next year as well. Hope you are as successful as you were this season.
Brilliant, Gary. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on. And as I said when we were chatting before, this is brilliant. I think it's brilliant what you do, giving clubs a platform to talk about, their club and how they're approaching things. And as I said to you before, I love watching them. I love hearing other managers' stories, and sort of sniggering away to myself, thinking I'm also going through that pain as well. So. Listen, thanks very much. My pleasure.
Mate, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All the best. Cheers,
Cheers, back. I am here with Cregagh Wanderers manager Alan McLennan, who is fresh off a double season. Alan, I'm sure you're over the moon of how the season went.
The season couldn't have went any better. We went. I think we lost one game the whole season. Well, one in the league. One in the league. Very unlucky in the Junior Cup, very unlucky in the Junior Shield. But the season couldn't have went any better for us.
Yeah, in terms of how you've progressed this season, I'm right in saying this will be your third or fourth season in the amateur league.
I think it's our third year.
Third, yeah.
I think it's our third year in. We missed out in promotion last year.
Yeah.
On the last game of this season, and the league was the most important thing. I always think the league's our bread and butter, so the league was a number one aim. Anything else off that was a bonus.
Yeah. I think last season it looked to be a real sort of mess 2C with the amount of games and then the delay, and then you were probably playing about 12 games in 3 or 4 weeks. And once you finally got a chance to take a breath, and then after last season's disappointment, I'm sure yourself and the players are coming back in the season going, right, the league is our aim this year. We're aiming to win the league, and you have came through, you have won it.
Well, that's it. I mean, the league, from the outset, the league was our aim, to get the league title. Don't get me wrong, there's been blips along the road, but we got through it. And I mean, the thing about our team is they're all mates. Every single one of them's mates. I mean, they're all good players, and they've been offered to go to other clubs. But, because they're all mates, they're all staying. There's nobody looking to jump ship,
Yeah. I think once you get that camaraderie, and you, as a coach, you look in the change room, you look around, and sometimes change rooms can also manage themselves in a way. And like you're saying, they're all mates. And when you know that junior football, we know what it's like. When it comes to a Saturday, if you get a crowd of friends who are going to play for each other and fight for each other, and they care about the club, and it can sometimes get your wins by itself.
Well, that's it. I mean, some of the boys have come through with me from they were kids. Because we're now entering this season. Coming's going to be our 20th year.
Yeah.
So we run from seniors right the whole way down to juniors. So some of them, when we first started off, actually started at our youngest age group, and now they've come the whole way through, and they're playing senior football, which is great to see. We always wanted the stepping stone there, because what we actually started with was our juniors. There was no senior team. And then by the time they got to the age, the seniors would have said it, well, we'll have to run with a senior team.
Yeah, the progression of the senior team just always brings on the whole club, really, doesn't it? Because those kids are coming, they're watching you lift trophies, and they're thinking, I can't wait to be part of that. I can't wait to play for that senior team when I'm older.
Yeah. No, brilliant. As I say, to see kids coming through the whole way through the club to play senior football is great. And to be honest with you, we've now got some senior players who's got kids of their own that are now back and playing for the juniors.
Right.
So I think that's the way most clubs want to go. I think that's what they want, that community spirit, that family spirit, if you call it, that we all stick together and, we'll just move on,
Yeah. There's kind of been a template, I feel, set in place the last couple of years in amateur league, especially where teams with a junior setup and a thriving junior setup, and players coming through and playing their seniors seem to be the teams which are most successful. Like even recently, I was speaking to the Aquinas manager, Liam O'Connor. They just moved into 1A, and their senior setup's only been going about 20 years, and with their junior setup pushing them forward, they've progressed that far. Even in recent times coming out of junior football, you've like Willowbank, Green Island, Plunkett, teams that have really just went straight on the intermediate football and progressed up. So I take it long term, that would be your club's aim. You're now moved into 2B from 2C. I take it long term, that's the aim, to progress just as high as possible.
Well, the aim is to go as high as we can.
Yeah.
You know, as I say, these boys are all mates. Some of the boys have played at a higher level. You know, they have played at a higher level, but again, they're playing with their mates, and they want to push us as a club as far as we can.
Yeah.
The outset this year is to try and do our best in 2B and push for promotion in 2B.
Yeah. Obviously, it'll be a different challenge next year in 2B. As knew what 2C was about this season, and Grimsport are coming up with is they'll be strong again. They obviously run you really close for the league, and you have a lot of good teams in 2B. Is when anything changed this year? Preparation stay the same, or
preparation staying the same? We know we'll have to strengthen. We're not that off. We know we're trying to bring a few players in, which hopefully we should get over the line shortly. But we know 2 or 3 players, and I think keep the core of what we have. We'll be fine.
Yeah, and then obviously you've shown how strong you are as a team, not only winning the league but also going on to win the Cochrane Curry Cup and beating a lot of teams along the way. Like he's beat an unbeaten 2A St Mary's team in the semi-final, and then Clonduff as well, and other teams in the earlier rounds. So you've shown your strength there as well.
Yeah, well, I think in the quarterfinals we beat Downpatrick Celtic. Yeah. I think we beat them in the quarterfinals, and then we beat St Mary's in the semis, which I'll be honest with you, that was some win. That was, beating a team who have just now moving up into intermediate is unbelievable. And on the night, with a rocky start, but we had 2 goals disallowed and we missed a penalty. So we win 4-2. It could have been 7. We're just elated. We're just elated with a win. St Mary's for us was the hardest test. To be honest with you, the Clonduff final, we were playing our closest rivals, and it was a hard one to get up for. It was a hard one to get up for, but we got it over the line. That's the main thing,
Yeah, I seen that we spoke earlier as well about the youth teams. The numbers that he's brought the semi-final and the final. I think that there alone helps the team over the line, really, doesn't it?
The only disappointing fact is where we played it.
Yeah,
we actually thought what I went, and I'm sure St Mary's and Clonduff would agree with us that we actually thought the final should have went to, and the semi-final should have went to Seaview or the Welders ground,
which it used to be. So it did.
Yeah, but it was disappointing that we didn't go there. But it is what it is. It's a football pitch. You just get on with it.
Yeah, it's the thing is Ulidia is a great setup, and then they use like Sparfield for a lot of semi-finals. It's a great setup as well. Like, don't get me wrong, like they're very good intermediate facilities, but there's something about a stand, and the fact that you could fill a stand or 2 stands as a club, and then have enough, like being able to do that as a club, which you would have been able to do, rather than have people just spread out all around the pitch. There's just something about that, and with the numbers that teams like yourselves are able to bring the junior semi-finals and finals, I think it needs to be looked at, really.
Well, we've already spoke to the league about it. We've made our feelings known,
Yeah.
So hopefully it's something that they can look at in the future. We have, you have older people coming, you have parents coming to watch, so they want to sit down. They don't want to be standing up around the ground,
Yeah.
I think only being fair to them that they should have had it somewhere else, but it wasn't, and you just get on with it.
Yeah. In terms of your league form, you win 24 out of 26 games, only 1 defeat. In any other season, that would probably you'd walk the league and have it won by February or March. But Grimsport obviously were a strong contender. They ran you close. I'm sure your games against them were obviously massive games, including those games. Was there any other games where you look at over the course of the season and go, those are the types of wins that would win you leagues?
Yeah, I mean, we look at the Grimsport games. I mean, they beat us at our ground. To be honest with you, I thought we should have done better. We didn't play well that day. They beat us by the odd. They were beating us. I think it was 3-0. They were beating us. We came back to 3-2, and we had a couple of chances to get the draw out of it, and we didn't do it. But then the regroup and go down there and beat them on their own patch wasn't bad, because we knew what they brought and we knew what we had to do. So, you know, it was good. And Greenwell Star gave us a good game as well. I mean, they drew with us on our own patch, you know. So, you know, they gave us a tough game. As I say, Sunday Row give you a tough game too. You know, there's good teams. There is good teams in 2C.
Yeah, I think the last couple of years, a lot of the teams that have come into 2C have just really strengthened it, and the whole league has just got stronger year on year. It's become harder to get out of, obviously, for yourselves. It's taken your third year to get out of it. Even the amount of goals you scored in the league this year, I think I looked at it, was 145 goals you scored.
The goals were scored this year. If you look at it, we're the top goal scorers out of every division in the amateur league. So people say we are playing against lesser teams. Well, you know, you can only play what's put in front of you. Yeah. But our front line was absolutely unbelievable. They were every single one of them was on fire this year.
Yeah. See, that kind of argument, sometimes that annoys me, because see, as a coach, if you're playing against a team which is lesser opposition, you sometimes go through the motions and you might win it 4 or 5. Yeah. But the teams that are really going to go on and be successful are the teams that turn the screw and going, we're putting double figures past this team today.
Yeah. Well, that's what happened is the year before, you know, but we dropped our levels when we were playing against lesser teams. So this season, you know, we were trying to get through to the players. We can't drop. Yeah. You know, we can't drop our standard, which is what we've done. We didn't drop our standard the whole way through the season. See, in the Junior Cup, we played Ballymackay Rangers, and they came big favourites to thump us, and they were thumping us. They were beating us 3-1, and there was about 15 minutes to go. Was it 3-1 or 4-1? And they took off their best players, and see, in the space of 15 minutes, we come back, we equalised. We took it in the extra time and beat them in extra time. So with that, and that sort of way galvanised our season, because the boys had belief. You know what I mean? And that was ready to start. So then after that, we had belief. And we went on from there, beat the Emmons, which was absolutely brilliant. And all right, we got knocked out. I think we got knocked out in the quarter final. So we done well in all the cups, like, and see the teams who beat us. They done well. They done, so we weren't beat by somebody, you know, low down. But you know,
yeah. In terms of yourself, did I say you were previously managing Cregagh? Did you take a break and then come back again, or?
I did. I managed them, and then I needed a break, and we brought Andy Ray come in and took the team for I think it was 1 or 2 years. And then Andy moved on, and then I was asked to go back in again. So I went back in again, and we are where we are now, you know. So
fully refreshed then. Not looking to slow down or stop at any time soon then.
Well, I'm getting on a bit. You know, I think some people would love to see the back of me, but we'll give it another go this year and see where we end up.
Yeah, Alan, thanks very much for your time. Obviously, it's a really successful season for the club, and congratulations to yourself, the players, and everyone involved. And obviously, next year will be a tough challenge again in 2B, but I'm sure you'll be ready for it, and I'm sure you'll be up there towards the end of the season, pushing anyone else who's going to be looking for the 2B title. So I wish you the best of luck next season, mate.
Gary, thank you.
Cheers, thanks. This episode is sponsored by MCG Joinery. MCG Joinery is a newly established joinery company based in Greater Belfast. 5+ years experience in Irish and Australian building standards, covers all forms of first fix and second fix joinery. Free quotes available. Contact MCG Joinery on social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook,